time for Malzberg's Media Madness and Noel Sheppard, Associate Editor of Newsbusters.org. Hey, Noel, welcome back. I'll try that again. Hey, Noel, welcome back.
Hello, how are you? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. I got scared for a second. So, unfortunately, we have nothing to talk about today, and no news, and I'll see you next week. Okay, first of all, something that, and you've got so many great hits on Newsbusters that we're going to get to, some with sound, but we emailed each other beforehand. Of course, Jay Carney took a beating in his press conference a little while ago, but prior to that, it was revealed by Politico, and it was addressed at the press conference, that this administration held a private, closed-door press briefing with a select few members of the press to respond to the big ABC story today on the talking points regarding Benghazi.
Yet, I'm sure, as you noticed, although you may have been on the air, Carney said, no, this wasn't closed door, and this wasn't off the record. So, you know, I don't know what to make of this. Look, the Benghazi story now is dissembling. The administration clearly is in a lot of trouble on this. I mean, what's interesting is you even had MSNBC commentators this morning saying that the administration is looking bad on this. So, which is interesting. You've got liberal commentators saying the administration is looking bad, yet the supposedly conservative commentator or anchor on MSNBC, Joe Scarborough, thinks that this is all much ado about nothing. So we really are in an alternate universe today.
Yeah, well, not that alternate, because during a commercial break or during the top of the hour, when MSNBC cut out of the press conference, Martin Bashir's show with Finney and some professor, African-American, this is nothing. This is all designed to, this is ridiculous. Maybe they made a little change, but, this is nothing. So it's not all that alternate, not completely.
No, well, look, we're not going to completely alter MSNBC, but it is very, very shocking when anybody on that network isn't specifically defending the Obama administration. Shocking.
Absolutely. Now, you talk about two things related to MSNBC. First of all, the Benghazi hearings on Wednesday, MSNBC gave no live coverage to the hearings. They gave Hillary's testimony where she famously said, what difference does it make? 5.5 hours back in January, and praised her performance, but nothing on Wednesday.
Nothing. Yeah, you know, MSNBC at this point, I mean, we talk about them every Friday, and it's really come time now for the cable providers and the satellite dish companies to remove MSNBC from proximity in their channel guides to CNN, Fox, CNBC, Headline News, C-SPAN, etc. This is so far from a news organization at this point, it's absurd. And, you know, the other thing that's kind of interesting, I think, what was very, very interesting, is on Wednesday, MSNBC actually came in fourth. Now, this was one of the biggest news days of the year. Obviously, the biggest news day was the Boston bombing. This is probably the second largest, busiest news day of the year because of the Benghazi trials. This was, of course, on Wednesday.
Right.
Jodi Arias' verdict coming in, and more information about the Cleveland kidnapper. And yet, there's MSNBC in dead last, behind, of course, Fox, CNN, and then Headline News. And in the demo, you know, between 25 and 54, there were shows that actually quintupled MSNBC's primetime numbers. Quintupled. And you know, for those from Rio Linda, that means 5 times.
Yeah,
to make a little, you know, poke at Rock.
Yes. Well, absolutely. And I was going to get to that story that came out today at Newsbusters by you also on MSNBC as a follow-up. You're absolutely right. Dead last. On one of the biggest news days of the year. And it is so telling. And let me jump to something. This is my personal own gripe. This Chris Hayes person. And I want to make it perfectly clear, I'm not talking about his sexuality. I have no idea what his sexuality is. But to me, as a person, the package, it's so sanitized. Not that there's not a political bent, but it's almost as if they could take a robot and spew these highly intellectual, either opinions or facts or numbers or stories and read the prompt. There's no personality. There's never a smile. It's like like they pump the information in one end and it comes out the mouth. It's just there's nothing to him.
Yeah, he's a boring male version of Rachel Maddow.
Kind of, yeah.
Right. Well, and he looks a lot like Rachel. I mean, they really do look like they could be, twin brother and sister. They're very, very similar. I think what's happened at MSNBC and why they moved him up and they kicked Ed Schultz out was I think Rachel Maddow right now has a lot of power at MSNBC. She's their number one rated primetime host. Everybody thinks that she's the smartest in the world, irrespective of how many times we at Newsbusters and the Media Research Center show that she's quite often very inaccurate.
You guys do a great job with that very often.
So I think that what happened here is that he's her protege, much like she was kind of Keith Olbermann's protege. And I think, with Olbermann gone, Maddow now is the queen of MSNBC. And I think that she had, and by the way, I have no information on this. This is total speculation on my part. But I think that they're trying to, everybody wants to go after the demo. It's all 25 to 54. And she does extremely well 25 to 54, as of course does Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert over on Comedy Central. It's all about 25 to 54, and I think they felt that Schultz was too old in that time slot, and that Hayes, as a Maddow protege, was going to set her up nicely. And what's interesting is since he's come on board, her numbers are down. Right. His numbers are way down from what Schultz did.
Right.
I just don't. I think what you've got now is you've got 2 hours, 2 consecutive hours, right in the middle of prime time, starting at 8 o'clock East Coast time, going into 9 o'clock, of these kind of wonkish, unattractive. Unattractive is not the right word. They're not necessarily attractive men and women. And they're very, very wonkish in their style. It's a lot of numbers, and I like that style. It doesn't bother me, but I don't think that the 25 to 54-year-old set is enjoying this 2-hour period. I think they've shot themselves in the foot by bringing him on board.
I agree with you. And again, Rachel Maddow, at least, I think, and I don't watch her all that often because I can't get sick to my stomach and upset.
Right.
But she at least has a personality a little bit more, but Hayes, it's nothing. It's all he wants to do is talk and talk and talk. He get as much in as he could, and it's no appeal there. Anyway, I don't want to.
I think it works better on Saturday. I mean, he had a very interesting Saturday program. And on Sunday, and I think it worked better. I don't think he's a primetime guy. He's not ready for primetime.
Yeah. All right. Now Dennis Miller was on with O'Reilly, and he made a very interesting point, and we could talk about the CBS reporter who is now incurring the wrath of the CBS brass because they say she's got an agenda on Benghazi. Right. Very interesting. Let's go to cut 61 if we can, Will, and listen to what Dennis Miller said about journalists, anybody who might dare to try to bring down Barack Obama or Hillary.
And the press isn't going to go after this story, Bill. A lot of people in the press, maybe some guy on the internet will break it eventually. But you realize Woodward and Bernstein became Woodward and Bernstein because what they did to Nixon. The key thing in that equation was Nixon. You had a free rein on him. You can't go after this guy. You won't get Woodward and Bernstein status. You'll be out of the game. If you're the one who brings down Barack Obama, you will be out of the game. And if you go after Hillary, who's going to run the next 8 years, you'll be more out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, very well said.
Very well said. And we've got Cheryl Atkinson, as you said, right, of CBS News, who's taking a tremendous amount of wrath. And what's interesting is the MRC did a study. She hadn't been on the air discussing Benghazi
in months, right? Since
November.
What is that about then?
Right. Now, by the way, on the air, I think that she had done some writing on the subject at CBSNews.com, I believe, although don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But she hadn't been on the air discussing this, so she finally does in May and in April, or excuse me, in May, and the folks are calling this advocacy. Look, we know what this means. We know that they wanted Benghazi to be completely ignored prior to the election. They did a great job of that, and that was for Obama's sake. Now they know they really need to get this off of the front pages and off of the headlines for Hillary Clinton's sake, because this conceivably could be a very, very strong talking point in 2016, especially if Hillary ends up getting some kind of a challenge. I mean, the conventional wisdom at this point in time is if she runs, she's going to suck all of the oxygen out of the room, and no one's going, I mean, even Biden, no one's going to want to try to compete against her.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's true. A guy like Biden at this point, this is conceivably his last shot, and his numbers right now are looking pretty darn good. So if he were to run against her, this Benghazi story is going to come up, and we haven't heard the end of this.
No, absolutely not. But again, with a fair press, Joe Biden never would have been allowed to continue in that race anyway. All right, let's go to Jonathan Alter before we get to David Letterman. We're saving lesbians for last, folks. Call it discrimination. I don't care. Jonathan Alter on MSNBC, again on Martin Bashir's show, talking about how sequestration could kill people. Cuts 46. This will be cut 46. Will, let's give it a shot here.
Pretty much all of these agencies could close some programs, consolidate programs, save some money. Obama's for that, Democrats are for that. But to just kind of say that arbitrarily everything has to be cut, what ends up happening is, look at these people on dialysis. They get rides to their kidney dialysis programs. If they don't get there for their dialysis treatment, they can die.
There you go. That kidney dialysis patients won't be able to get a ride for their treatment, and they're going to die because of sequestration.
Do you know that even with sequestration, we're going to spend more in fiscal 2013? Excuse me. We're going to spend 28% more in fiscal 2013 than we did in fiscal 2008.
Right. It's like the FAA budget.
Exactly.
They were still getting more after sequestration than Obama proposed in the 2013 budget that they get.
Look, we knew at the time when Porculus was first being discussed, we knew that this was, and they were guaranteeing this is just one-time emergency spending.
Right.
We knew that was a lie. We knew that was going to become the new baseline from which future budgets were going to be created, and this is exactly what's going to. If this was just one-time emergency spending, what we should be spending in 2013 should be what we spent in 2008. Before stimulus, adjusted for inflation, or maybe a little bit higher than that, but not 28% higher than that. We were taken for a ride, and unfortunately now we're not allowed to put the brakes on at all.
Right, absolutely. All right, we get to the lesbian the situation here, and I thank you for bringing it to our attention, Noel, at newsbusters.org. This is David Letterman, and he's actually sitting there with Michael Strahan, former New York Giant great, host of what is it called, Kelly and Michael? I don't even know what they call that show anymore.
I think it's Kelly and Michael.
Okay.
I couldn't possibly watch that.
Okay,
stuff.
and here's how it went. Cut number 60.
It's part of the world. It's part of humans, and accept it. And let's keep going. It really doesn't do anything to anybody else.
I agree. I agree 100%.
Who cares? I have always. I fancy myself a big supporter of the gay community, and I've always enjoyed lesbians.
Oh, man.
I know.
You know, it's very hard to catch me off guard. You got me right there, man. You got me.
All right, he got Michael Strahan, all right,
yeah.
And but you make an interesting point though in that. And they were talking about Jason Collins coming out, obviously, in
right.
the NBA.
Right. Yeah, to me, if a conservative, and if you made that joke, that could be, you'd be asked to apologize. It could be the end of your career. I mean, it's 2013. We've got X number of states now that are pushing for, or that have already legalized same-sex marriage. You've got folks talking about how same-sex marriage is the civil rights issue of our time. Yet a liberal comedian is allowed to joke about how he's always liked lesbians, or he's enjoyed
lesbian. There's a difference.
Enjoyed lesbians. Yes. You know, I'm just not. I just don't think a conservative could say that in 2013 and keep his job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Why don't we end it on that note?
Sounds good.
It's always. I won't say what I'm going to say because you just said what you said, and I'm taking it to heart. Anyway, hey Noel, listen, I appreciate it, my friend. A great segment as always, and we'll read your great stories and everybody else's at newsbusters.org, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, and it's Friday. Go enjoy some lesbians.
Bye, Noel.